Zachary's Garden by Martin Kolev. The elevator shakes and stops. Here we are, someone says. We are packed like sardines. Folks from the camera crew and from the ministry. One by one we weasel our way into the hallway. We ring the doorbell and look around, confused. Most of us haven't met the main characters of today's show yet. What if the sight of a whole lot of strangers makes him uncomfortable? Fortunately, our worries are unfounded. Plamen, Zachary's dad, opens the door. He is a middle-aged man, grey-bearded, with a good-natured smile. "Hi, good morning," he says. Our main character pops out behind him. Zachary is a short-haired youngster with lively eyes, dressed in a grey sweatshirt. He is not startled by the cameras or the presence of strangers. On the contrary, he reaches out and speaks in one breath. "Hello, I'm Zachary. Who are you?" He insists on introducing himself to everyone as he goes around the cameras. Cameramen and stylists come out of their usual shade and murmur their names. Ivilo, Kremena, Krasi. Zachary soaks up information like a sponge, but he needs to learn more. "What's your last name? Do you have any brothers or sisters?" You can tell right away that he loves meeting new people and having guests. "Will you talk inside?" Plamen says. "Come on in." The crew storms in a thin line into the flat and everyone takes up their tasks. Cameramen are looking for the best angles, producers are fixing discrepancies in their schedule. The living room is not a living room, it is now a set. Every shot should be appropriately situated. I'm trying not to get in the way as my role is only to observe. I examine the flat closely. It's not the fanciest place I've seen, but there is certain coziness about it. Probably because the walls are covered with bookshelves. Zachary's parents are educated people. His father teaches information technology and his mother teaches Russian. Malvina, the mother, is absent right now. The family's agenda is so arranged that one of the parents is always around Zachary. "Do please sit down. Make yourself at home," Plamen says. "Would you like some coffee, tea, or water?" Zachary dives into the hustle and bustle like a seasoned swimmer. He also offers us a treat by touching his forefingers with his middle finger and pointing out his thumbs. "Here you are," he says. "Today is Milena Slavova's birthday, the contemporary Bulgarian rock singer." He knows all the celebrities' birth dates, Zachary's dad explains. "I accept the invisible treat. Thank you. What is it? Brownie?" I take a bite and sit at the end of the sofa. The next piece of brownie is meant for Magda from the ministry, who has already met the family. "Thank you, Zachary," she says. "Is that your favourite type of dessert?" "Yes, brownie, also cake," he answers with content and moves on. The introduction is not over, it has just started. For many people, this is just a boring ritual, but for Zachary, it's a significant event, a genuine holiday. He walks around and questions his guests with bubbling curiosity. He asks everyone about their relatives, birthdays, their residence. He keeps repeating some words as if tasting them. This name is sweet and chipped. That date is fragrant but slightly sharp. Wow, he remembers everything, the show's host remarks. "Yes, we joke that is one of his superpowers," Plamen answers. After so many years, he still remembers the day someone was born, even the day of the week it was. "It sounds like a superpower indeed." Plamen shrugs his shoulders. "True that, a man's brain works in odd ways." I look at Zachary. He is about to be interviewed, but at that moment he is actually hosting the show. He is carefully listening, his head tilted, nodding from time to time. "And what's his father's name? His last name? What about his mom? Zdravka is Misho's mother, right?" He takes the cross-examination very seriously. The interviewees keep smirking. It is very intriguing, even embarrassing, to take a look at someone's family history, especially if you've just met them. The names of the deceased decorate the brows of the newborns. Children scatter like chicks around other cities and continents. The divorces and disgraceful relatives are mumbled like tongue twisters. Zachary is walking to and fro, leaving green traces under his slippers. I rub my eyes. Am I imagining that blades of grass are starting to sprout from the floor? The room smells of loose soil as the carpet's flower pattern is coming to life. Magda from the ministry leans towards me. So what do you think? She manages the project, selecting the participants for the TV show and seeking ways to fulfill their dreams. Zachary does not know yet that he is about to meet one of his favourite celebrities. My role in the project is to observe the events and write a story afterwards. Well, I don't know, I admit. I embark on the endeavour prepared. I read about autism on Wikipedia and a few specialised websites. I know this is a spectrum disorder, as two people with autism can be completely different in terms of behaviour and symptoms. However, meeting Zachary leaves me surprised. He is not a typical case indeed, Magda agrees. Most people with autism live in their own world. They do not interact much. Zachary, on the contrary, is extremely communicative. I look at him again. He comes up to me as if he has read my mind. He smiles. He takes after his father's smile and asks, Martin, how are you? I'm fine, thanks. Today is Milena Slavova's birthday. Yours and Yovchev's as well. Here, take a candy. I take it. It seems that the brownie is over, but the guests are numerous as well as the ones who celebrate their birthdays today. Zachary goes over his usual questions. What's your father's name and your mother's? Do you have any brothers or sisters? A sister? When was she born? Is she married? When is her husband's birthday? Where do they live? Do they have any kids? I'm trying to focus so as not to mess up someone's birthday. Unlike Zachary, I'm not so good with dates and numbers. He is listening carefully. He is pleased to hear our fathers have identical first names. Despite our conversation speed, he absorbs each of my answers, experiences it as if he deeply inhales the fragrance of the story sheltered in those seemingly dry facts. It seems he can see my family tree rising in front of him. The tree is spreading its branches like heavy wings covered in green leaves. It seems that he collects such trees, that he gathers the pieces of the world name by name, date by date, in an attempt to build it to make it complete. He looks satisfied with each and every happy event, such as a wedding or a birth. He passes by the sad places where the family tree breaks. When the last twig at the top turns green, he moves on. The late morning sun peeps through the window blinds. Today is the first sunny day in a long while. The light is spilled over the walls and coiling in the green saplings. The trees are growing at a miraculous speed. Their branches sneak through the bookshelves, entangled cameras and microphones. Crocuses and rhododendrons grow under people's feet, but nobody seems to notice. Only Zachary looks around with satisfaction, runs his finger over the bark of the trees and plucks a few weeds. Soon the whole living room drifts off in the dappled shade of vulnerable oaks and graceful birch trees. Zachary is already interrogating someone else. And does your sister have any kids of her own? Yes, she does. A boy and a girl, Kristin and Christo. How old are they? Kristin is 17 and Christo is 21. Kristin and Christo, Zachary repeats, and reaches for a branch winding like calligraphy above his head. He scrutinizes a leaf and nods in approval. And I rise. The sunlit leaf looks almost transparent. Words and numbers written in small letters are bulging out. I look around. The tree branches are laden with names and dates. Initials are carved in the trunks. This is Zachary's garden, and all the trees here are family trees. He looks around with love and curiosity. He questions his new friends and compares the fruits of his labour. Your son was born on Vasil Gurov's birthday, and your sister's name is the same as that of the family's acquaintance. Occasionally he would forget a date. It happens, and then he reaches for the branches. Zachary goes back to Magda and promises, Magda, I'll call you on May 20th for your birthday, right? And brother Nasco was born on the 22nd. Yes, that's right, Zachary. I'll look forward to your call. He really loves sending birthday wishes and all sorts of greetings, his father adds. He's sitting in the corner of the room, away from the centre of events, listening to the conversation and sipping his tea. He wears an experienced but tired translator's smile as he clarifies what his son has meant, whenever Zachary speaks something unclearly. Zachary is a lucky guy in this respect. He has a reliable and united family who help him. They came to know early he is a special kid. His grandmother taught him to recite the alphabet when he was only a year old, even though in a babyish manner, to the astonishment of all his neighbours. A man's brain works in odd ways. Unfortunately, worries began right after. Zachary was not very communicative. He didn't answer even simple questions. Endless examinations started when he was 3 years old. The family visited psychologists, neurologists, logopedists. After all, the diagnosis was made clear and complications arrived pretty soon. The Bulgarian educational system has no way to cope with children like Zachary. Classes are probably a torture for a hyperactive kid. He had to change schools a lot, and a parent or his grandparent would always accompany him until he graduated from high school. Meeting everyone is finally over. Zachary is exhausted. He turns his back on us and sits at his laptop. A garden needs everyday boring work, especially when it is constantly growing. Patience is not one of Zachary's strengths. It's good he can count on his superhero family. He's very good with technology, Plowman says. Nobody taught him. He learns everything by himself. Zachary puts on his headphones. His fingers run through the keyboard with the ease that always embarrasses the representatives of older generations. How do you cook stuffed peppers, he asks. Well, you bake them in the oven. Watch Zvezdev's video. Zachary looks at his watch. The crew gets as noisy as an angry hive. The schedule has been meticulously calculated and some shots didn't come through in this narrow flat. The TV people would probably pass out if they could see all that vegetation in the living room. After all, people see as much as they can bear. However, Zachary is not pressed for time. Checking the watch is more of a ritual than anything else. He shakes his hands, presses enter, and pronounces together with Zvezdev, "Hello, dear friends." Zvezdev is his favourite chef, and Uti is his second best. Zachary likes to cook with his mother or grandmother. He cannot handle it on his own. He also likes listening to music, especially Bulgarian, and watching sports TV shows. He knows a lot about players, reporters, show hosts. The peppers are ready. We move on to another recipe. Hello, dear friends. Here comes a music video, sports news, a third recipe. As a typical self-respecting 20-something, Zachary has 20 tabs open in his browser. I observe him and start thinking about everyone's nooks. Don't we all have such nooks? Secret spaces which surround us like a hoop or a ridiculously baggy coat? Sometimes it's a garden. At other times it's a waiting room, a museum, a gift shop, or just an empty room. We nurture these nooks, cultivate them, and carry them with us wherever we go. We make sure they are cemented, freshly painted, sterilised, polished, and ready for photographs. Good-looking urban spaces without any trace of sheer chance. The world is constantly shifting its shape and direction, but it cannot get hold of our nook. We gradually become suspicious of everything wild which could form an opinion. Over time, any vegetation starts to look like weeds. We are ready, the producer announces triumphantly. We are shooting our leaving of the flat. Cameras open their glossy eyelids, diffuser umbrellas shine in the air, the TV host and Zachary go back to the elevator and we follow them silently. A few retakes need to be made downstairs as an elderly man is speaking loudly on his mobile. Excuse me, sir, would you step aside, please? The cameraman asked politely. No way! Some people get really angry whenever reality shows interfere with their lives. The TV host takes Zachary to the bus, parked in front of the building. Zachary, we have a surprise for you. Are you ready? Yes, I am, he replies enthusiastically. We settle in the back seats and Zachary sits in the front. After all, he is the star today. Part of the crew will not join us. There is not enough room for everyone. Zachary waves his hand after them. Goodbye, friends. I recall Zvezdev's greeting. Probably this is the reason why Zachary likes him so much. He shares his friendly attitude to the world. Maybe this is another superpower of his, or at least a skill only a few people possess. Zachary does not guard his nook, he rather invites you to visit it. He questions you in detail, listens carefully, and remembers, when he calls you friend, you know he really means it. We drive off. They put a microphone on Zachary. His spirits go up again, and he meets the new people from the crew. Green shoots begin to crawl on the walls of the bus. I can smell the nice flavour of resin. Bees start buzzing. Zachary's garden is following us and keeps growing. Some people lock their nooks and put a beware of the dog sign. Others are horrified at the mere idea of vegetation growing around. I cannot get rid of the thought that this says a lot more about them than about the gardener. The bus driver plays some music. By chance, or maybe not, one never can be sure with TV, Graffa starts singing, and we are actually heading to his studio. The boulevards are lonely at night, like the people who judge us. I keep walking in the wind, waiting for the morning to sleep. Zachary is a big fan of Graffa. He even attended one of his concerts at Unac Stadium. He fancies many of his songs, knows the texts by heart, but often mentions that Side Observer is his favourite one. Honestly, I have not listened to that track before. I relate Graffa to noisier songs from my childhood, such as Ahead and Electric Shock. Now, however, I listen carefully to the text and can totally understand why Zachary likes it so much. I'm not a superhero from the movies. I'm just a dreamer, an ordinary man. I'm not part of a fake elite, a side observer, but an ordinary man. I shake my head as I listen to the melody. I like it. Sometimes superheroes are the ones who look like the most ordinary people. Sometimes the most desired and mighty superpower is exactly the one, just to be an ordinary person. We stop in front of the record studio. Everyone smirks. Surprise is sweet even when it's meant for someone else. I duck to avoid a branch of the family tree. Zachary notices my movement and asks, Martin, how are you? I'm fine, and you? Me too. How's Plamen? He is fine too. He smiles and shakes my hand. Martin, thank you for being my guest today. Thank you too, Zachary. Once again, cameras, microphones, faces, shiny like diffuser umbrellas, show up from everywhere. Come on in, Zachary, follow us. He unbuckles his seatbelt and jumps on his feet. Yes, I'm coming. I follow the little procession with my eyes as they enter the record studio. The sun is peeking through the clouds and is shining more brightly than before. I turn around. Probably I will walk instead of taking the bus. Only now I notice I am clenching my fist. There's something in it. I open my fingers carefully as I expect to see a leaf with tiny letters and numbers written on it. Instead, I find a piece of brownie. I take a bite and move on. Translated by Gagana Pancheva. This text was created with the financial support of the European Union and is part of the short story collection The Voices of Our Silence.